for a period.
Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning, excuse me, is Cuba. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about Cuba, Dr. LMadu. And I think the audience recognizes Dr. LMadu from the many shows that we've had with him, dealing not only with South America, but with the Middle East, with Africa, and with almost every continent. In a real sense, Dr. LMadu, I think, explaining the kind of information and the kind of influence that you bring to our discussions here. And I'm glad to have you here this morning to talk about Cuba, because this was one of the first of the colonies. And let's talk about it. Let's have you give us some information about it, background information, and then get into the topic of Cuba itself.
Well, you know, everybody understands that Cuba, you know, was a former Spanish colony. You know, we remember the Spanish-American War and, you know, what happened, how Cuba, you know, became independent, up to the revolution, up to the treaty, you know, the Guantanamo Bay Treaty and all that. In order to understand, you know, Cuba today, one has to go on what I might call 3 levels. One is from 1959, when Fidel Castro overthrew Fulgencio Batista, till 1990, you know, when 1991, when Gorbachev started his perestroika in Russia and communism collapsed. And then from 1991 to 2008, you know, when, you know, after the Cold War and Fidel became sick, handed over to his brother. His brother took over from 2008 February effectively as president, you know, till now. So these are the 3
stages
exactly that one can look at, you know, what is happening in Cuba up to today. Prior to, you know, the Cuban Revolution, everyone understood there was a lot of American influence in Cuba. A lot of the companies in Cuba were owned by Americans. A lot of the corporations and businesses, casinos, etc., etc. In fact, Havana was in Miami, you know, at that time of the Caribbean, where most of the casinos were located. So here comes Fidel Castro in 1959 and overthrew the so-called corrupt dictatorial government of Fulgencio Batista. Initially, people thought that the, you know, Cuban Revolution would follow the capitalist path.
Okay.
You know, but however, most people didn't understand the thinking of most of the Cuban revolutionaries, particularly Raúl, who is the current president. In fact, Raúl Castro was the main communist amongst the revolutionaries, not even Fidel himself. In fact, history says that, you know, Fidel was influenced by his own junior brother, Raúl Castro, who was already a member of the Communist Party when the revolution started. And as you well know, this revolution was sparked, you know, because of the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista. You know, people were being arrested, jailed, civil rights, you know, human and civil rights were being violated, etc., etc. And of course, like all revolutions, you know, these were few people, you know, started, about 5 or 6 of them, really. You have Fidel Castro, you have Raúl Castro, his brother, you have Che Guevara, the Argentine medical doctor, you have Huba Mato, who was Commandant Huba Mato, and then one of the most charismatic of all of them, you know, Camilo Cienfuegos, you know, who died in a mysterious plane crash some time ago. Just 5 of them, plus the highest ranking black amongst them, called Juan Almeida, Major Juan Almeida. He just died 2 years ago. These are just a group of them who started the revolution. When they came to power, like I said, you know, they appointed some figureheads known to the Americans, you know, make the American government feel comfortable, you know. But at the same time, Fidel Castro and his brother and the rest wanted a socialist, you know, Cuba, where unemployment would be a thing of the past, racial discrimination would be a thing of the past, you know, free health care, free education, and you name it. And because of the, you know, path they chose, they fell, you know, out of favor with the Eisenhower, you know, government administration.
Dr. Madu, what we're going to have to do during this first segment, we're going to have to take our first break. And after we come back, we can pick up at that particular point, but it's time for us to take this first commercial break. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Talking to Dr. LMadu.